Y'all check us out. Y'all see we fancy in here today.
That was real
most definitely.
Hey, y'all. Hey, welcome to TDRS.
Who did that incredible introduction?
That's shout out to Josh, Breon, and I'm forgetting our other intern's name, but they are our DCP team, BKA, the Citizen Ed Network production team, and they did that for us. So shout out to them for, we feeling real like CNN-ish, BT-ish, like we officially here today.
Yeah, shout out to the background crew. That's totally dope.
Right. But what's going on, y'all? Welcome to another TDRS. It's your girl, your cousin, Tanisha Peoples, live with my homies, my brothers in good trouble, Mr. Jason B. Allen and Mr. Nehemiah Frank. And again, we are the trio that talks their real shit every Monday at 11 a.m. Central, noon Eastern. How y'all feeling today?
It's Monday, y'all. What's up?
It's Monday. Y'all know I've been moving. I literally threw up my set. Like, I got out of bed. I got this done today just to make sure I could come and see these teens talk today. So I'm happy to be here.
Yes.
I know he's happy to be in that mansion.
It's
definitely massive, y'all.
They say Neo got Real Housewives of Atlanta money. You out there, Sheree Whitfield and Nene Leaks, rich.
He really
no way. That's awesome. Definitely, we don't got no money like that. Come on.
It's a major blessing though. I'll say that. He's not gonna talk it up, but I will. It's a major blessing. I can't wait to get by there. It's beautiful. I've seen the pictures.
I bet. Yeah, I got to get down there and check it out. All right, y'all, let's get into the show. Let's kick it off with, we got a new segment called the TDRST. So let's go ahead and get started with that.
This technology is so, I'm amazed by it. Wow. That was super dope. I love it.
Right. Yeah. So, man. So, y'all, what'd you say, Neo?
I said shout out to the graphics designers for that. I mean, it's incredible. They did a really good job.
Yeah. All right, y'all. So over the weekend, within the past couple of days, Lil Nas X been stirring the pie with a big spoon, y'all. He released a video in which he told the world, like, honey, I'm here, Jay. We got a clip of it.
Oh, no way.
What's up? Yeah.
Industry, baby. What y'all think about it? Neo, have you seen it?
I have not. I mean, are we gonna play a little bit of it or what? Like, what's going on?
I don't know if we could play it. It might be a little bit. Josh said we can't play it because it's a little graphic. But what we will say is that Lil Nas X came out here and said, I'm not for play. Like, I'm out here. I'm representing for the kids. So basically it was this video where he was in this kind of like, he was imprisoned and he had the boys in there and they were shaking ass everywhere and it was naked ass and they had some sexual scenes and stuff like that. So I just, it's like at this point, like the straights are definitely like clutching their pearls. But some of the, some of the people in the camp and the family are too, because the question is Lil Nas X doing too much? What y'all think?
I'm laughing because I just go back to growing up in Atlanta, and I just thank God that when they were shooting all these videos, I'm going back to this song called Hey Little Mama, Why You Dance So Funky? I'm probably telling my age, but when they shot that video, we were like in middle school, and we had like a club, MBK, and I saw one of my classmates, and I hope they don't post any more pictures of us like that. Like we were in our own zone doing our own thing. And I go back to all those music videos of like artists doing the same thing. Like I'm laughing because everybody is like losing their minds. And I'm like, won't Luke doing this in the 90s? Like, won't Snoop Dogg and them doing this in the 90s? It was just a different demographic. Why we doing so much? I feel like the people are doing too much. But that's me. That's just my philosophy, going back to what my great grandfather would always say. Like, every generation has an issue with the youth. Like, they were saying that in the 50s, y'all dancing to, you know, funky and too wild. They said it in the 60s. They said it in the 70s. So every generation gets it. And I don't feel like this generation is any different. Like, we forgot we had Prince. Did we forget about Prince? Did we forget about, you know, Outkast and all? Like, I'm just saying, like, come on, y'all.
Right. I agree 100%. Like, I think it's a generational thing. But I will say, I personally don't think that Lil Nas is doing too much. I mean, he's an artist. That's what artists do. They push the boundaries and make people think outside of the box. And so, you know, I'm pretty sure that there's a deeper message and meaning behind what he put in that video. But again, I haven't seen the video yet, but you know, once I get a chance, I'll probably have a better analysis.
It's wild now. It's like, I mean, it kind of reminds me of the Cardi B video. I think a lot of people were saying,
so it's
I can't think of the name of the song that she did a video of similar to how they were dancing. But just people that I know that work with youth who are dance instructors, they thought it was super dope. And they were like, you know, it opens up a door for a lot of our students. And let's be real honest, right? You know, in our dance programs, we always laugh at the boys who are on dance teams and who are cheerleaders. Like, they never get the respect that they deserve for being, you know, in that area, right? In that space. And so, you know, looking at dance instructors across the nation say, listen, those are some of my former students that are dancing in the video, and they've been trained. Like, they're trained dancers, and I feel like they deserve that respect. It's their art, is they moves, and I mean, you know, it is what it is. I'm actually curious to see what the young people have to say about it. But
oh Lord,
yeah, I don't feel no ways tired about it.
I mean, let's just be real. Let's just be real. What it is, people feel away. People go definitely be in their feelings because it's a whole bunch of naked men shaking ass. It's this so-called progressive country that's still very conservative and still very rooted in religion, that's rebelling against LGBTQ plus people and homosexuality as a whole. And that's where the pressure's coming in. So
you have to add the fact that he's black too, right? Because there's that.
Right.
The attack on masculinity.
Too, so there's that component.
It's the attack on masculinity and what they're doing with. And my thing is, you know, I'm gonna go here, and I know this ain't with the T, but over the weekend too, it came out about, you know, allegedly R. Kelly has, you know, inappropriate sexual relationships with two teenage boys. And the people were more upset with the fact that he could potentially be bi or gay than the fact that he has, you know, potentially or could have, you know, sexually assaulted women and black girls. And it's like the focus is, oh, if a black man is doing something, it's not like he man. It's like everything else is ignored. And I'm like, y'all, this is you know, it's. I feel like it's a lot. Our attention is definitely not in the right place. But hey, you know, it is what it is.
Man, well, you know, we just go keep people in prayer. You know, it's like at the end of the day, shout out to Lil Nas X for living in his truth and in authenticity, and you know, for repping the culture that has been, or you know, a life or whatever that has been deemed, you know, insidious and all kind of stuff over the years. You know, it's like we deserve space too, you know, regardless of what it looks like in that space. Like, if y'all want to look at WAP and, you know, Jason, like you said, Luke videos and all that stuff, when everybody's face down, ass up, let Lil Nas X be great and they be face down, ass up too, you know?
Yeah, I mean, just have a whole party.
Right. And we also we coming short to close out the tea, but we also want to shout out Issa Rae, who got married over the weekend. And just how, you know, she's really representing black women and black women in the industry, and showing, you know, giving us examples of black love. It's like we see Insecure and we see the toxicity and the dysfunction in that, but that's not always mirrored in real life. And so it's like people are telling these stories, but they live in, you know, lives that really represent black love and, you know, solidarity and unionship. I don't even know if that's a word. Y'all forgive me. I just got home like a few hours ago. But shout out to Issa Rae. Do y'all have any comments on her her
I'm
recent
happy.
marriage? Yeah,
I'm happy for her. I saw some of the pictures and I was like, oh, that's good. I mean, you know, it's definitely needed in this time, right? It's a lot of uncertainty still around the pandemic and, you know, people not working and all these shootings that are happening everywhere. So we can squeeze in some Black joy. I'm all with it. So I'm happy for them. I wish them the best. And, you know, we'll see what she has dropping next. That's what I have to say.
yeah. Let's come on with that final season of Insecure, Issa. Let's get it. Let's get it.
Yeah, we ready.
Right. All right, y'all. Let's get into
Sis, one thing. I don't know. One second. I just want to acknowledge Bob Moses, who passed away, civil rights icon. He's an educator, and I would be remiss to, you know, not mention him. I had the opportunity to meet him through my dear aunt who passed away. She was also a professor and advocate, and someone she definitely worked alongside with, and he was that guy. So I definitely want to acknowledge the sacrifices that he's made for us. So that was it. All for the team.
Most def. All right, y'all. Let's get into today's conversation. Let's go ahead and bring our young people on today for the Gen Z Takeover. Y'all, you know we love the young people. Y'all, we got back again Miss Aisha Dukuly, who's been on the show a few times. Also, Mr. Jaden Holliman, who was recently honored for his activism. Then we got Kaylen Moore. And then finally, last but not least, we got Miss Haley Schlitz, who also has her own show on our Citizen Ed Network. So y'all give it up for our young people. They gonna come in here and take over today. How y'all feeling?
I'm feeling good.
Good.
We're feeling good.
Good. How was y'all weekend?
Good.
It was
Productive.
yeah.
Good work.
Work.
Well, I've been at work.
Man, y'all getting into adulting like early in life. I'm so sorry. My condolences.
It's okay to have a little hustle, but not like, you know.
Yeah, you should be putting
full time.
hours in at 16.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So let's get into it, y'all. This is a Gen Z takeover, so we want to let y'all lead the show. We want y'all to drop y'all topics. What y'all want to talk about today? I know Aisha mentioned that she wanted to talk about the Olympics, which I agree because y'all, I felt the way because they had athletes on stage, like opening stage, talking about the use of CBD. Now, what we learned last week in our conversation about the marijuana industry and stuff like that is that THC and CBD are not the same things, but I think it's kind of a slap in the face for what they did to Sha'Carri, how the world treated her. But then on the flip side, y'all got these people on there talking about CBD. You know, it's like, which one is it? So let's get into that. I don't know if y'all are familiar with that story, but how do y'all feel about, you know, them still not letting sis run?
Well, I feel like I know that CBD, once you take the THC out, it doesn't make you high anymore. It's like medicinal, and it's therapeutic. And so there's certain other colorless athletes that are doing worse drugs, that got to participate in past Olympics. And so for me, I think this is just an attack on Black people. It's not just her they wouldn't let run. There's other athletes too. In track and field, there's certain athletes from South Africa and like those countries who they say their testosterone levels are too high, and they can't run unless they take certain drugs to like lower their testosterone levels. Because I just think the standards of the Olympics are rooted in they're white standards of what you should do. You have to, if you don't have the European nose and all that stuff, then they target you. I feel like it's just an attack on Black people. They don't want Black people to participate in the Olympics. But I also think it's a double-edged sword because even though Sha'Carri Richardson and many other athletes couldn't participate because of the racism and discrimination, there are a lot of other Black athletes that participated. Athletes from the country. Liberia is sponsored by Telfar, which has been in the news lately. I think I'm Liberian. Today's Liberian Independence Day, so I think for me, like it's a really great thing to see. But I really do think it's an attack on Black people. But on the flip side, America is not really winning like you saw before. Like, you'll see a lot of these other foreign countries are coming for America at the Olympics. So I think it's in a way it's like they're getting a taste of their own medicine. It's like
that's karma. You say they got karma.
Yeah.
Like, I can just add, like I want to add something too. I don't know if any of you guys like follow gymnastics, but last night the girls, Team USA, they placed second behind Russia in the qualifying event finals. And you just think about that, like Simone Biles, there's nobody in the world that is doing moves as hard as this sister is, right? She is everywhere. She's on everybody's cereal boxes, everybody's shirts. Yeah, all of the designers and the endorsements. She's getting all of that. Sister is getting paid, but at the same time, like they downgraded her moves, her skills, and so that was the only reason why the U.S. qualified behind Russia. There's no reason why the U.S. should have qualified behind Russia. Like Simone Biles could have fallen 4 times and still won the Olympics in 2016. So you think about like how she has two new moves named after her. Both of the moves have been downgraded by the FIG, which is the governing body for the Olympics and for the points that they get as gymnasts. So just think about that. Like she's super good, just like the sister that was running from South Africa, just like Shakira, the young lady who was not allowed to participate this time around. So just think about that. It's really sad. So.
Yeah, I agree because I had read somewhere that actually several Russian athletes were caught using enhancing drugs too. So like really just building off of everything that's already been said, it's just, you know, systematic racism at this point where, you know, there are other countries, you know, you just said that they placed above Simone Biles, like the GOAT. Like we all know that she's the best of the best. She's incredible. And I do think when we're talking about the Olympics, we want to take time to appreciate the Black girl magic that is there because they're all amazing. But looking at like just the results, it's clear that there is systematic racism because she is literally the GOAT. Like she's the best. And like we literally just talked about all of her amazing moves, her amazing accomplishments and abilities. And the Russians who are using, like a lot of athletes who have been caught using enhancement drugs are still clearly competing. But there's a huge issue when somebody who's of color is in that exact same position. So I find this discussion really interesting.
Yeah.
I agree with Haley that the Olympics, they uphold systemic racism. Like I think they should just let her run because science has proved that weed is not a like athletic enhancing drug, but like they let people who use athletic enhancing drugs still play in the Olympics. So that just shows the racism. If it's not enhancing her performance or anything, I think they should just let her run and change the rules because it is a racist rule from war on drugs, stopping Black athletes from running. So I think they should have let her run.
I know that's right, Jaden.
Yeah,
I'm saying my personal opinion. I really think that we shouldn't even be worried about it personally. And I always have those wild outtakes, but like in my mind right now, the odds are stacked against us. They've been scared of us from the get. I mean, we already know Shakira would have went out there, first place, just completely washed them. They were threatened. They did what they thought was right. They were wrong. We're upset. And I mean, it's for something that really, I say, was always against Black people. Just at this point, I'm not surprised. I'm not any more angry than I would normally be because we see this every day. We see it every day, especially in Atlanta. Atlanta is one of the biggest spots you see stuff like this at. So honestly, it's an everyday thing. I'm not surprised. As far as I'm concerned, I'm surprised they didn't go any further than just getting rid of things. And it was going as far as to certain people. I'm not going to go by what I want to call it, but they were going back and they were going in her Twitter. And it was just going back in her time because they had to find something bigger than weed to put against her name to really throw her in the dirt. Digging up old tweets, doing all this quote unquote canceling her, trying to get her endorsements taken away. You sit there and you start to think it's not just the Olympics against her. It's really that community, those communities that are against her, that anti-Black communities. These folks see this stuff and they're taking it and they're doing what they can to like tear her down.
Hey, yo, like let's first of all, I just want to say how much I love these young people because they out here preaching. So that's more reason why y'all need to share this episode out. Like it, love it, share it out because they definitely out here preaching. Like, and I want to play kind of devil's advocate because on the one hand, I am on with Kaylen, like, forget them. Like, why are we worried about it? At this point, I'm like, thinking about when we have so many like black billionaires and stuff like that, similar to the conversations we were having when there were protests in the NFL. Why can't we start our own leagues and our own competitions and stuff like that? Our own black, kind of like athletic space. But then too, there's that element of that standard of white supremacy, right? Where those accolades matter. And so it's like to be an Olympic champion or to be a NFL superstar, stuff like that. Like people actually want to get to those places. And so where's the in between where we could celebrate us and not be limited by white supremacist culture, but also get our flowers and recognition from the world if it's needed?
That's good.
Is there a middle ground?
I like the idea of our own Olympics because you really think about it. The Olympics is really to glorify America and all those white superpowers, which are really, in fact, mediocre compared to the black talents you see in America and Africa. But I think where the issue comes in is because they have the sponsorships, they have the money, and so they make it they over-exaggerate. They're very overrated, right? Which is what other countries have the sponsors and the training, whatever. They would smoke America every time. And so I feel like the happy medium would be, if you want to go to the Olympics, go to the Olympics. That's cool to get that accolade. But we should have our own Olympics, our own Black Olympics, to really showcase talent. Because a lot of stuff you see at the Olympics is from the colorless people. It's really mediocre. I feel like we could do better.
I love that. She's talking that talk, y'all. I can't say what I want to say because I'm trying to be respectful of the young people. But I'm also messaging, and I'm hoping that you guys have heard of Dr. John Carlos. He won in the Olympics in the 60s, right? And he's been an activist ever since, exposing racism in the Olympics. Trying to get him and his team. He's older now. He just came out with a comic book that he mailed for me to send to some of my students. And I want to get him connected in the comments to this conversation because he's been saying that this is, again, another institution that is fearful of Black people and it does not like Black pride. So anyone that looks too ethnic, that we had to think about that. This isn't just about the weed. This is about the swimming caps. And, we don't want the women to have swimming caps that fit, their hair. We don't want them to run with any signs. Like, I have not heard anyone say that. Like, no t-shirts, no signs, no signal of Black Lives Matter, nothing. And it's always focused on Blackness. So I just wanted to add that to the conversation, that anti-Blackness has always been present in the Olympics since Black people have been showing up, and like Aisha said, been showing out.
And can I highlight one more point? There was recently a situation in which another Black athlete, a woman, was being criticized because she brought activism to the Olympics. And so they didn't want any grandstanding in which people were, pumping their fists, similar to I think that was the Olympics in the 60s. And so there was an elected official, I believe they always from Florida. It was some guy from Florida. And he was just saying how she was a disgrace because she brought, an element of BLM into the Olympics. So what do y'all think about that? Because they're trying to say if we're representing America, then we should represent America. But if you represent America, we got to bring our experiences as Black Americans with us wherever we go. So he's essentially, to me, saying leave the racism and leave the oppression home and just take the American flag with you. What y'all think about that? I can't remember Sis's name, but yeah, she got some heat because of that.
I disagree with that. I think we should be able to come as ourselves. And America, it is a racist country, so we have to show like our activism in the Olympics. We can't just go and be like, oh, America's such a great country when it treated us. I even disagree with some people competing in the Olympics and representing a country that doesn't care about them. Same with the military. So that's the whole purpose I disagree with. But if you're going to go, I do think you should take some element of Black Lives Matter and showing up for Black people, because it's two different Americas. And in America, you're representing Black people when you go on that stage, not just America.
Come on, Jaden.
I agree. I don't think that you can separate America from its history, and I know we might get into this discussion later about, just critical race theory in our school as we get back to school about the pandemic and things like that. But it's a constant fight with people who are not of color to try and hide the history of America, like just this terrible history of just racism and oppression and struggle that we have. And you see it in the schools, you see it in every system that you can name, and it's shining through in the Olympics too. Like, oh, please go represent our country, but don't talk about like the country though. Like, don't talk about what we did. Like, we love America, but we don't love our history. We don't want to talk about it. And we don't want to talk about what we did to you. But like, we also like want you to forgive us, but we don't want you to talk about it. Like, let's just pretend it never happened. But please go represent America and love America. But like, you can't have it both ways. You can't like represent America and then not talk about America's past. You can't like fully be like, this is our country. And it's not like, every political, every single leader that you can name has had their flaws. So it's not even like, it's just really teaching the truth at this point, like just the truth of America, the truth of what we've been through, the truth of what we've done, and how we can learn from it. But to try to block that off in every single system that we have, it's like you really see how like ashamed they are. I mean, and rightfully, like, look at what you did, but it's important to talk about and teach so that we can learn from it, because this is not a forgive and forget kind of situation. So I think I find it funny because I know that one of the topics that we had said maybe we might get to is about like just back to school education, critical race theory, the pandemic, and all of that like in one. And I just think that this is like a really interesting crossover between like this trying to hide the American history in the Olympics and how that plays out in our educational system.
So let's get to that. Haley, I don't know if you my little cousin or something somewhere, like y'all we may be related because we were on the same page, but let's get to that because I don't think that we've had y'all on the show since this whole CRT thing's blown up. What are y'all thoughts on that?
Speaking about the swim,
y'all ready?
Yeah,
it's
interesting.
Go ahead, let's go. Go ahead, Aisha.
And my Cash App's in right next to my name, so please support.
Okay.
But I definitely think that like the Olympics thing is like, it's kind of like the Holocaust when it was when the Olympics was in Germany during the Holocaust and trying to hide the Holocaust. It's the same thing. You can't hide people's pain, people's suffering. It has to come through. And then in schools, you're going to see that going back to school is going to be hard. Nobody's going to want to go back to school and have somebody tell them what to do when they have to do it when you're at home and you're doing everything on your own time. And I also think, like, let's be real, right? Students are going to need a lot of support. You're online. Nobody's there to tell you not to cheat or to look up answers. And so students are going to need that extra support because the workload was so heavy that it was hard to study or do the work, And so I feel like students need the extra support, but then also they're going to need to be flexible. There's going to be behavior issues are going to go up if we go back to school, and it's the same thing it was before Corona. I think something needs to change, and safety is a big issue. Just because people are getting vaccines doesn't mean people can't still catch COVID and spread it, and people are not dying from it anymore. We need to make sure that safety measures are in place, especially for people with like IHPs, for people with underlying health issues. That's very important because the Black and Brown community is disproportionately impacted by that.
So real quick, before I want to go to Kaylen real quick, but Aisha, I also want you to just give a quick piece on the advocacy y'all doing around or for students with IHPs, because that's an important piece. As you said, we're going back to school. This Delta variant, shout out to DST. Let me be petty. Shout out to DST. The Delta variant is running wild, and there are students with underlying health conditions, and they're going to be put in these environments where they can be at risk. And so talk a little bit about the work that y'all doing around IHPs in Atlanta.
So working with Metro Atlanta school districts like Gwinnett County, APS, to make sure that they do an audit and make sure that every student that needs one has an IHP, and that it's updated, and that not just that it's in the school system and we have it, just see we have it, but teachers know, because other times teachers don't care. Like for me, I have sickle cell. And a lot of times my mom had to come up to the school, had to advocate for myself. My teacher simply didn't care about my disease. But a lot of these times, like people think it's not serious, but not just sickle cell, but any disease, the simplest thing can cause a kid to go to the hospital and they might die. It's serious. And so everybody that interacts with these kids needs to know about the disease, illness, and be knowledgeable about it. Not just so that the school can cover the behind and say, oh yeah, well, we have it on file, when you don't really care about them.
Right.
So it needs to be intentional.
All right, Kaylen, I want to come to you because you want to chime in on the CRT piece. Like, you were ready. What do you think? What are your thoughts about these fans?
I was tagging back to the Olympic thing. And
one
thing that we didn't talk about, and I actually, Haley brought it up, but I don't know if she was going to touch it like I wanted it to. The reason why I don't want us bringing up BLM and all that, America's trying to market themselves as the perfect country still. The country of freedom, the country of, hey, look, you want to start something, come here. We're totally not going, disrespect you for being from somewhere else. And it's America's way of covering their tails. We went out, say they let us go out there and BLM and all that. Now is noticed by the world that you're Black, you go to America, you're probably going to get shot. You're probably going to get bullied. You're probably going to get kicked. You're going to get hurt. They're gonna do a lot of things to you. Now it's noticed. Now it's out there. So to take out that issue, you get rid of Black Lives Matter. But you can't take the black out of us. So we're gonna do it in some way, shape, or form. You play hard enough, people gonna want to see more of you. And then they start finding out more about you. Then Black Lives Matter. Then what does that mean? Oh, you start searching, you go down a rabbit hole of what's going on in America, they're gonna find out anyway. So in a way, they're gonna keep trying to take us out of the Olympics. But you can only cover your tail for so long until eventually the truth comes out.
So it's similar. It's like, you know how we used to, it's like that be good Negroes concept. You know how your parents, even when you used to be young, your parents go out, you go outside with your parents and like, don't get out here embarrassing me. That's what America is saying. Like, don't put our problems in the streets. Be good Negroes. Don't get out here embarrassing me. That's essentially what they're saying.
But our
right?
problems are already in the streets, right?
That's
and
true.
It's not just in America. This white supremacy, like, this is why America supports Israel, which is actually a settler colony in Palestine. America will not address what's going on in Israel, Palestine, because if they address what's going on in Israel, Palestine, they have to address that they're also a settler colony and that they have institutional racism. And really, it all goes back to white privilege, I feel like. White people just are very, very scared to give up their privilege because they don't know how to function outside of it. And it's a very uncomfortable space for them. They're the only ones that know how to be uncomfortable. And it all goes back to that, which is why CRT is so important. Teach people about systematic racism and that it's not about black or white, but it's about these systems and how you play into them. And if you are on the side where you have a lot of power and influence, it's your job to help deconstruct these systems so that everybody can live equitable, peaceful lives. And they need to stop pushing this narrative of the American dream. The American dream is not possible for everyone. It's only possible for some. And so I think that's why critical race theory is so very important. And that's what it boils down to. White people are just afraid.
Yeah. I want to jump in. I really, because I think I'm in Texas, and this is a really particularly pertinent issue in Texas because we recently had a special session, and one of the pieces of legislation that was like a hot topic was a bill that was saying we are not allowed to teach critical race theory in our schools. And it's fascinating to me as I watch, because I'm an intern at Commit Partnership. So I've been watching legislation, watching these committee hearings, taking notes, like really following intensely, and to listen to these conversations and try to figure out like their rationale. Like I used to really think like what is there, like what is wrong? And it's really just them trying to protect their white supremacy. And they don't want to talk about the past because then that leads to a conversation of, not only it's important to recognize the past, but then moving forward, how to remedy this, how to make it not happen again. And in their perfect world, it would happen again. Like they want to be like supreme. They want to be on top of everybody. So to learn from our mistakes, they don't see it as a mistake. They don't want to like learn from it. And so I think that's fascinating because, like I said, as I'm watching these conversations happen, I'm like, it's difficult to follow the conversation. And I'm also an ambassador for the African American Policy Forum this summer, and we have a lot of discussions about the dual pandemic of like just racial attacks on particularly Black people and also COVID. And so as we go back to school, like this is a really, really interesting time because critical race theory is an educational topic. It's for law students, but nonetheless, it's about teaching the truth in our schools. And as we go back to school, instead of focusing on how we can make sure students stay safe and don't get COVID and don't bring it home to the families that they're staying with, we're not talking about that. We're not talking about the Delta strand and how we're going to make sure that our students don't get sick and that our citizens of our country don't get sick. We're not talking about that. No, we're more concerned about hiding the truth and, we're poisoning the minds of our children. Like, can we focus on the global pandemic that's happening right now and stop trying to hide the ugly truth of the American history? Because like we said, it's already in the streets. Like everybody knows that it happened. Now it's just really a matter of will you learn from it? And they're constantly trying to stop that because they want it, they want their white supremacy position. They want it to stay the way it was. They'll go back to the way it was. They don't want to have this conversation. So I absolutely find it fascinating. I love talking about the dual pandemic that's going on in our country right now because it's a really important conversation.
There is definitely a dual pandemic that's happening. And so I'm just going to go in and throw in the public service announcement for today. Atlanta has a new show that is coming, on our page. It's actually not going to be hosted by me. Anthony Downer is going to be hosting this show. that's going to really help educate people. History teacher, right? Which is why we need the show to help educate people around CRT and pulling in students and parents, other educators, policymakers to really have conversations around what needs to be done and why a lot of people are not realizing this. That I'm looking at Tanisha's comment around CRT being the boogeyman term to create more gatekeepers. It's also being used to detour the work that we're doing to make sure that public school districts have multicultural curriculum. And let's be real honest and factual here, that our public school districts do not have this right now, which means that our curriculum is focused on whiteness. It's centered around that. And so CRT is a way to block the actual movement of multicultural curriculum in our public schools, even going to where Haley is in Texas. I was looking at a tweet from a policymaker that was saying now even Dr. King may be at risk of being taught to our young people. And in my mindset, I'm like, wow, like Dr. King, who is the go-to person for, blackness and activism, is at risk of not being able to be taught in schools. And so that means that what are our kids actually going to be getting? So I appreciate the young people's thoughts on this, and check us out tomorrow on Air Atlanta at 6:00 as we talk this up more.
Right. And y'all remember, public service announcement, share this out because it's an important conversation. So I want to get Jaden in on this. What's the danger? Why do y'all think this teaching this history is so dangerous? What's the danger to white people and what's the danger to black people?
Well, it's dangerous to not teach the history of our country's racism. It's going to be impossible to unite and move forward as a country if you don't teach how it was built and the type of people that white people oppressed to build this country. And I think it's just so crazy that people don't want their kids to learn the history of their country, to unite with their peers. Like, it's going to be impossible that if white people think that it was good that settlers took Native American land or brought slaves here to build this country. Like, we built this country, and I think it's crazy that that can't be taught, or like the words like Jason was saying, Martin Luther King can't be taught. And they even water down his words when they do teach it. Now that they can't teach it at all, I think it's just crazy that they don't want any of our history to be taught in schools. It's just crazy.
I mean, it's erasure, right? And even I wrote something about this recently. I want to get y'all thoughts on this because for those of you in Georgia, there was this book called The History of Georgia, and one of the excerpts in the book made it seem like plantations were like kickback spots. It said something about, the slaves would barbecue and the master would play songs and stuff like that. And so not only is it erasure of history, it's the rewriting of history to make white people seem like these saviors and these patriots and things like that. And they were teaching that in Georgia in the 1960s. So how do y'all feel going back to school knowing that your education is currently under assault and things that you feel that you need to be leaders, not that y'all aren't already leaders, but to be more aware and connected to your history are at risk of being taken away?
That makes me angry. That they would just flip the script like that, because you go, even like I live in Gwinnett, right? And so even like you go around here, there's certain neighborhoods like subdivisions named Plantation or whatever that were plantations. This place you go to when you look and see like this was a plantation. That's crazy. But I don't know if the worst thing about what's the worst than not teaching critical race theory. Than teaching critical race theory to them, they don't know that not teaching it is worse, because you ask somebody to stop doing something respectfully, and they don't listen, and then so you have an idle attitude, but then you'll end up fighting. This is what's going to happen, because this asking them to teach critical race theory is asking respectfully, right? If they don't teach critical race theory, and them changing it to make it seem like plantations were the kickback spot, that's aggravating me more. And then before you know it, it's gonna get dangerous out here. They were afraid what happened in Minnesota with the protests when the George Floyd stuff was going on. They're not ready for what's gonna happen after they don't teach critical race theory and they start changing history and twisting the narrative. It's definitely not okay. And as young people, I think what we need is a lot of stuff we learn. We have to learn on our own. We need to be taught in schools. I feel like we just need to be honest, have honest conversations with those that are in power, our peers, to really nip this in the bud.
Yeah, I agree. I was just going to say, I think it's interesting because critical race theory is really a topic that's taught in law school to like begin with. And I know there was a comment that was highlighted earlier where it's just like the boogeyman term to gatekeep like whitewashing our history. And when we're talking about like revisionary historians, it scares me because I'm really worried that as we go on, like kind of what was just touched on, like how the truth is going to come out. So it's really just, if it's not taught respectfully in a structured system like our educational system, how will it come out? Because you can't hide and you can't hide a past like that, and you can't really hide past in general, but especially not one like what America has. And I think it's really crucial to talk about it, but it's just how and when. And so for me, when I think about teachers not only not teaching it, but teaching lies, like just straight up lies, it scares me to be revising history, like just so dramatically. It's not even like, like not that it would be okay, but it's not even like just not teaching it or like making it like sugarcoating it. No, it's just straight up lies now. Like not even that those things would be okay, but this is just the opposite end of like, let's make slavery sound like a good thing. Like, no, it wasn't. And I don't know, for me, like, of course it upsets me, makes me angry, but also I think another emotion I'm feeling is like, just, wow, like this is like nerve wracking. Like just, it will be interesting to see how our systems shape.
Yeah, hold on. I feel like we should have been like background for Haley when she was like live. We should have been back there like liar, whatever the song doing a little bit. We should have been background for her. But I'm sorry, I just want to interrupt. Kaylen, what do you think?
I mean, this is not surprising me either way. I remember I'm not really big on social media anymore. A lot of things have just kind of brought me away from it. But the few times that I do go, I get disappointed heavily. I hear you guys bring up the whole they're trying to change curriculum. But what got me wasn't they're trying to get rid of MLK. They're trying to do it. I mean, they've been trying to do that for years. I mean, I'm not surprised. They got all the power in the world. They want to do what they want. We all we can do at this point is protest, petitions, and all that. We can MLK it until we have to Malcolm X it. But sitting there and watching them say they're gonna stop teaching KKK as being morally incorrect is what got me.
Wow.
How do you tell people, the group of people that was hunting down black people, and we're not talking about, oh, we're gonna throw you, hunting down black people.
Wow.
And you tell them, oh, it's not morally incorrect to hunt down black. I mean, it didn't surprise me, but like, come on.
That's the danger.
Like, at least try to hide your racism. At least try. Y'all ain't even hiding no more. And it's actually sad. This is sad.
But let me ask you this, Kaylen, real quick. Let me ask you this, because this is what they said, this is what the conversation that Malcolm X has had about liberals versus conservatives, right? And so liberals will hide their racism. Conservatives will stab you in the front and liberals will stab you in the back. And so do we want people that have their racism or people that are outwardly racist so we know who we dealing with? That's a question to all y'all.
Personally, I want to, if a person has an issue with me, I'd rather you come up to me and tell me you have an issue. If you don't like my skin color, cool, let me know. I'll handle you accordingly. But if you do it behind my back, I find it more respectful to yourself, because I can get real disrespectful if I know that you're doing it behind my back. If I find out one of my friends, I don't have Caucasian friends like that, but if I had one and I knew that he was onto that, I would confront him. Hey, yo, how we friends and you like that? But if I know you open in front with it, why are you even around me? Like,
that's a good point.
It's real. It's black and white. Either way, it needs to be handled. It could be behind my back. It could be in my face. A knife is a knife at the end of the day, whether you get stabbed in the front or the back. It ain't okay. So I confront it either way.
I prefer outwardly, because like some liberals, like they pose as your friends, but then they'll go like write a bill like war on drugs that was written by liberals, not conservatives. Then like they'll pose as your ally, and then like some black people, like especially like older generation, they won't hold any liberals accountable or notice like the work that they're doing. They'll just be quiet about it. But like if it's someone who's outwardly, they'll hold them accountable. So yeah, I prefer someone who's like, I prefer outwardly because like when they're doing it behind your back, they pose as an ally, then they go and stab behind your back.
Mm-hmm.
That's good, Jaden.
Yeah, being caught off guard isn't fun. I said out.
I agree with Jaden. I prefer outward racism because then you can handle it and deal with it. If somebody is like nonchalant racist, then people will get used to it and think that's okay and it'll get normalized. Conscious Lee said that if you put a frog in boiling water while it's live, it's going to jump out. But if you put it in the water before it starts to get hot, by the time it's hot, the frog's already dead. And so I prefer it to be outwardly racist.
Yeah.
What about you, Haley?
I think this is a really interesting discussion. I think I'm seeing like a theme, like a underlying theme of like a power discussion and how dangerous it is that they have the power to enforce their racism. And I think that has a lot to do with critical race theory and how all these conversations, like just intersectionality, just really come together, and you see multiple aspects of these different conversations. And it's really this fear of teaching the truth. You know, that's really at the end of the day what it is, because that's what critical race theory is teaching the truth about our history, teaching the truth about the KKK being morally wrong, teaching the truth about like just, you know, activism, like just the Black Panthers, everything. It's just the truth of the history of our country. And that is what they fear, because they want to maintain their power to enforce their racism. So it's like how all of these conversations are just like intersecting. It's fascinating to listen to.
It is.
Yes. So what do we do, y'all? Because I was having a conversation with one of my frat brothers in Ohio, and he was asking about conversations and research around critical race theory. And I put in the comments, like, let's normalize calling it teaching history, because we don't want this misconception around them fighting critical race theory when they're actually fighting the teaching of actual history, right? So let's call it what it is. The thing is that we want to fight these bans against teaching history. Realistically, Black people fighting 1,000 other things on a daily basis. While on the other hand, white people have formed whole organizations, anti-CRT organizations, to fight the teaching of history. And so while we, again, recognizing that we got 1,000 things on our plates, and they plates over here just bare as ever, how do we fight this? How do we fight all the, I don't want to say all the things, I don't want to overwhelm us. We ain't got enough time for that. But what are y'all solutions or opinions on fighting this, along with a couple of other pressing issues that we see as Black people?
And before you guys answer that question, I want to also add onto what Tanisha's asked, just to give a little bit more context. Like, we're only 13% of the population, so there's a whole lot more of them. They can break out into little factions and fight these wars, while we're literally fighting so many different wars with just one Black body. So just also add something to think about as well with that question.
Can I jump in and get right off the bat?
Absolutely.
I think ways that we can handle, like, I know you're talking about like all of the issues that we face, and not to overwhelm, because we don't have time to talk. I don't know if any podcast or show would have time to talk about everything, but I do think that one of the ways that we can tackle as many issues that we face as we can is to vote, to really get, like, that is your voice in elections. That is how we can change the people in power. And like we were literally just talking about, it's their need to have the power to enforce their racism. But one of the ways that we can go about taking that power is by becoming the leaders, getting your education, getting knowledgeable on these topics, and getting out there and putting your name on the ballot, or voting for people who are putting their name on the ballot, so that we can really like change the tide of who enforces the power. And so I think that just right off the bat, one of the ways that we can tackle a lot of the issues that we face, and the issues that we talked about today in particular, is getting out there and voting, because that is your voice. And one of the things that America prides itself on, and that, take that with a grain of salt, but nonetheless, is that we are a democracy, and you can vote and you can get your voice heard. So really use that. And a lot of people think like, oh, I'm just one vote in the sea of votes, but really, like, every single vote matters. So to get out there, to vote, to protest, to the polls, it's really crucial, just like vital.
Love that.
Yeah, I agree, but to also know who you're voting for, and like actually know their record, and also like beyond voting, holding the people you vote for accountable. I think that's what people really do. Once they get in office, they go to sleep, but I feel like you should hold them accountable once they get into office. So yes.
That's
That's
key.
good.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to add this too. I think that, Neo made a great point in, highlighting that we're 13% of the population. But here's something that we also have to remember. And I remember Jaden and Aisha and a couple of the other students hitting the ground last year during the pandemic to get people registered to vote, out to vote, educated about voting, and supporting specific candidates who were Black. And then when they got in office, it wasn't so much of them being sleep, but they were really conservatives that were posing as liberals. And I'm bringing this up because a lot of times, even though we're that 13% and we have that one Black body, we still have Black people who are going to uphold the status quo, and they're going to be gatekeepers. And so I think it's very important that we know how to unmask the liberals, whether they're white, Black, yellow, green, purple, orange. We need to know who that adversary and that true opposer is.
I also think we need to divide and conquer. There's not many of us, but there's a lot of issues. So if this group works on voting, this group works on education, and we do it that way, make an agenda and get organized. We can't organize as much as they're organized because there's not many of us. But we can organize in a way where everybody's tackling something different, and we can make change that way.
I say, never say can't. I think we got the power to do it. I think of it, because y'all bring up the one Black body. I think of it like this. We have one Black body to accomplish a lot of things, and we only have one. It's sitting there. If we try to spread ourselves too thin, then, just kind of messes up. I feel like we tackle one issue at a time, with the whole election thing. We all collectively as a people wanted to say, like, we wanted Trump out of office. Now, personally, I don't think either option was any better, but with what happened with the White House on January 6th, we chose the better option. But the thing is, when we put our minds to something as Black people, we get anything accomplished. We went out there and voted, Trump's out of office. We go out there, we tackle these problems like the education system, we'll fix it. But that's something we all have to put our minds to. We have to want our kids to grow up. As us, our generation, we should want our kids to grow up knowing their history. I want my kids to grow up knowing who Malcolm X was, who Martin Luther King was, who all these great people, I forgot my boy, Congressman John Lewis. I want y'all to know about him. I want my kids to know who these people are. Because if you don't teach them their history, then they walk around and they act just like the people that created our history. You gotta put our minds to it. We have to put our minds to it as a collective generation, as a collective people. We gotta want this, and we gotta want it bad. We gotta want it more than they do. Because if we wanted it more than they do right now, and I'm gonna call out a lot of people on this. If we wanted it more than they did, it wouldn't even got this serious. And just keeping it 100. If we wanted it as bad, it wouldn't happen. If we wanted Sha'Carri to run, all of us collectively wanted Sha'Carri to run, she would have been running. That's just how it is.
I think you're 100% right, brother. But if I do want to pop in and I want to say, teaching Black history, it benefits white people as well. Like we want to have good citizens running around despite what color they are, right? But we also want these citizens to understand that, each ethnicity, each people group have something to contribute to this country, but they also have a story. And so in learning those stories, that's where we build understanding and we build empathy for other people's plights. Like we learned about what happened to Jewish people during the Holocaust, and so now we have empathy for them, right? So much so that our country is sending their nation money, like millions, billions of dollars every single year to support them, right? Because we built up empathy for them. And so that's what needs to happen here. We teach history, we teach it thoroughly, the whole history. Then we allow white children and other children who are non-white to build empathy for the Black experience in this country. And so I think that is one of the key reasons why it's important to teach critical race theory. We take out the struggle for voting rights in this country, and then white kids grow up and they don't really care about if the voting rights are being rolled back, because they didn't build that empathy. They didn't learn that history, that, oh, we must protect the Black vote because their votes have been taken away in the past.
If I could push back a little bit, because what I'm frustrated with is this worldwide or this nationwide ignorance. Minimally, every white person in America knows that slavery built this country, that Black people were enslaved. Minimally, that's enough for me in my mind to create some kind of empathy, right? And so we can support talk about the Holocaust and have empathy and stuff like that and give and send money. We still fighting for reparations. And so at that point, to me, it doesn't become an empathy thing. It really is a color thing. And what you don't want to do is you don't want to have empathy for people of color. And at the bottom of that totem pole is Black people, people of color. Because minimally they know that. I don't care. You can have you can just be ignorant about history, but you know about slavery.
Yeah.
And so at that point, you are in denial and you are ignoring the history.
I hear you, but here's the pushback. The pushback is that, like, if you're teaching children, right, the lies that we had talked about, and you say that, oh, well, George Washington was a planter and all of the slaves on his plantation had it made because they had food, clothing, and shoes, and you teach that to white children, from a white teacher, they're going to be like, oh, well, I guess it wasn't really that bad. You know what I mean? So, like, I think that teaching the wholeness of that history is super important, because when you teach the fact that at 6 months, a child was taken away from its mother, sold into slavery, never to even know their mother, or that people were brutalized, or that, people were born on sex plantations and shipped off all across the South, or a little 11 or 12-year-old boy or a girl was snatched from Virginia, sold into slavery to Mississippi or to Louisiana to a sugarcane plantation or a cotton plantation. You tell that type of story to a white child, I think that, that is where the empathy is built. So not the romanticism of.
I agree.
I feel. I'm sorry.
I agree with both Tanisha and Neo. You need the empathy. When they taught about the Holocaust, that they showed us graphic pictures of kids in concentration camps. I made us so sorry. But then also, slavery knowing that there was slavery should be enough, even though it's not it's not enough for them. We should teach empathy. But then also my thing is, like, there are Negro racism apologists, right? Negropeans that think that. So how do you reach them? Because we're the same color. You don't have empathy for me. You don't have empathy for yourself and your ancestors. So what do you do about that?
Yeah. We gotta close out. We got a few minutes left. So I'm sorry. This is a conversation I feel like we need another hour, and maybe we definitely need to bring y'all back before y'all gotta go back to school, like most def. So I want to give y'all space to share your final thoughts. And Haley, since you're about to go ahead. Everybody take about 30 seconds so we can push through our final thoughts.
I was just gonna say, throughout this entire discussion, I keep hearing the term white. And I really think that could be a problem in of itself, because it allows for this group of people to do like collective racism based on skin color. They know their ancestors, and we need to make them hyphenate. Like, British American, German American, like, and if you look at the EU, like, there's no white. I'm French. Don't even try to mix me with that. And so they like are leaving each other and like completely separating, because white is only a colonizing term. It allows them to come together to oppress other people based on skin color alone. So dismantling like the tongue of the oppressor is the first step in really like moving forward. I think that's like key.
That's good.
Who y'all dropping heat? Who want to go next? Throw the child. Come on, Jaden.
How she said how they come together as white to collectively oppress people. That was a good part right there. Yeah.
See, I co-sign.
Yeah.
Come on, Aisha.
No, I definitely agree. I think it's a double-edged sword. When I was talking about like how we can't organize, I'm talking about those Negro racism apologists. How do we get them on board? We don't have the numbers, and it's a little bit of us. And a little bit of us that we do have, some of them aren't even on our side. They think they're white or European American, right? So how do we make that happen? But I definitely think that Gen Z, we're different. We want change. We want it now. We're not here to play. And if they keep on playing, we're going to make sure that we get what we want one way or another.
Oh, she said they different, y'all. Show up and show out. Then come on, let's close out with Kaylen.
Honestly, I'm to the point with everything that's going on in the world. Just the Malcolm X approach is looking very much the move. We could play it peaceful. We've been trying to play it peaceful, but notice when we cut up for real, stuff got done, and that's what probably needs to start happening. Although it's probably the more risky option. I mean, it gets results, and they're already scared of us. It shows by the things they do. But it's going as far as to trying to oppress us. I don't call us oppressed. Although we are oppressed, I don't call us oppressed. I say they try, because you can't fully oppress somebody who's stronger than you. So at this point, the Malcolm X approach is probably gonna be the next big move in like the next 5 years. Riots will probably happen from us. All they can do is prepare.
Lord. Well, y'all heard it here and y'all heard it today, and y'all go here to the part 3 because we definitely bringing our young people back. But Gen Z is taking over, and they are not here for play.
Not at all. Not at all.
Right. So share this out and let the world know. Aisha said she detects no lies. Y'all heard it. They said they not here to play no games with y'all. So y'all share this out. We need all the Gen Zers. We need the baby boomers, whoever's still around, y'all around holding on, and us millennials and stuff. Everybody needs to get on board with the liberation of Black people.
Most definitely.
But with that, Neo and Jay, did y'all want to say anything before we close out?
I just want to say that this is a good snapshot of the ESC's podcast that's coming to Brightbeam. I think that we definitely need to empower more of our young people voices. And I'm gonna be quite honest, people don't want to listen to them. I look at how shows run, and we'll listen to adults and we'll talk and run circles around what sounds good, right? But we don't listen to our young people. And they're telling us like, yeah, y'all think y'all are doing some great things, and it's really BS. It's not working. So I appreciate this conversation a lot. I wish more people were tuned in and listening to it. But like Tanisha said, let's share this out and get it to the people, because it's up to them to educate the masses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to close out, Aisha said that we're not here to play. And I heard that Kaylen said that they need to get prepared. And I mean, I think that's enough said.
Get ready. Sorry.
They're tired. Like we've been tired. They were born tired. And so at this point in time, like something has definitely got to change. And I think that something will change because of the energy that they bring.
Man, we'll see y'all in part 3. And we will also see y'all next Monday, same time, same place, talking that real stuff at 11 a.m. Central, noon Eastern. All right, y'all, we out. Thanks for tuning in.